Okay. Okay, back to the dinner of Tfilas Kalim. Basically, we learned any vessel that has to do, that touches food, needs to be immersed in the mikveh. If not, technically it doesn't have to be immersed in the mikveh. So here's a list, just alphabetical list. It's a long list, but it's time to go through. It's interesting to see why and which things need to be immersed in the mikveh. Okay, but again, anything that touches food, in the food preparation, touches food, needs to be immersed in the mikveh. So you have like an apple corer, that takes out the peels of the pits of the apple, needs to be tabled. Baking sheet needs to be tabled because you put food directly on it. The barbecue grill cover doesn't need to be tabled because it doesn't touch the food. The barbecue grate that you put the meat on or the fish on, whatever you're barbecuing, obviously that needs to be tabled because you're putting food on it. The basin for dishwashing utensils doesn't need to be tabled because, again, it's not touching food. Blech that you use for Shabbos, so the custom is you don't table it. Why? Because you don't put food directly on the blech. It's always on the pot, on the blech. You never put food directly on the blech. Bottle warmer, again, does not need to be tabled. A bread box that you put bread in by itself should be tabled, it says, because again, it's touching the bread. If it's touching the bread, it needs to be tabled. A butcher's knife, cake tray that you put the cake directly on the tray, or the cake tray cover, again, because it doesn't touch the food, so that doesn't need to be tabled. Can opener does not need to be tabled. A candy dish that you put candies directly in needs to be tabled. Shaving dish cover, shaving dish pan, all those things need to be like a sterno. You know what sterno is?
But mostly we don't put the food in, so you put the flame on it.
1 minute. If the things that you put in mashal, the water pan, that doesn't need to be tabled because it's not touching the food. It's only touching the water to heat up the water. Coffee mill doesn't. Coffee mug, again, if it's ceramic that's not glazed, it does not need to be tabled. If it's glazed, there's machlekes. Actually, we hold that it needs to be tabled, but there are poskim that say if shiny glass, thin. Yeah, there's a okay. If it's a glass mug, it needs to be tabled. A metal colander needs to be tabled. Plastic colander, again, halachically, plastic doesn't need to be tabled. But many people, including this not official Chabad custom, but unofficially, Chabad immerses plastic, hard plastic, that, it's made to use more than once, like a plastic colander, plastic spatula, or anything like that then you would table it. A cookie cutter needs, because it touches the food. Cookie sheet does. Corel cup, many poskim hold Corel and those synthetic materials don't need to be tabled. That's one of the reasons the old plastic doesn't have to be tabled, because again, plastic is synthetic. It's not a real it's not a material that's natural. But in our circles, we generally do table Corel also. A corkscrew does not have to be tabled. If you have a cork that you put into a bottle, because it doesn't actually touch the food, it's just covering the food, the wine, so you don't have to table it.
Corkscrew not, but a cork does. You lay the bottle down in the fridge and it touches it.
If that's here they write cork doesn't, but I don't know if because it's wood. Cork is basically wood, so wood doesn't need to be tabled.
What about the metal one?
A metal cork would need. Would need.
Reusable corks.
Yeah, but if it's metal, because again, then it does touch the food. Like you said, you lay down the bottle and all that. Corn holders, sometimes they have those two things. You hold the corn when you want to eat corn on the cob and it's hot. You have those things like metal toothpicks, not toothpicks, metal skewers. Yeah, thank you. Metal skewers that, so that would need to be tabled. Crock pot that's made out of ceramic doesn't. The crock pot that's made out of metal does. Now the electric crock pot base, the mechanism, again, the food doesn't touch that, it doesn't need to be tabled. But it's interesting. If you have a crock pot that's mamish enamel, or ceramic, you don't have to table it. But if you have a glass cover of the crock pot, so that needs to be tabled, but not the crock pot, because the crock pot is ceramic. Ceramic doesn't need to be tabled. But if the pot cover, which is glass or metal, that does have to be tabled. Okay, a cup.
Why do you have plates? A lot of plates are made actually from ceramic. No?
What?
The plates?
Which plates? It depends what material it's made out of.
When they have like design on them, it's not ceramic?
No. No, you can have very expensive glass dishes with things on it.
Crock pots aren't glazed?
What?
Crock pots aren't glazed?
Crock pots, many of them are glazed, most of them are glazed. Again, some pots can hold even if it's glazed, you don't have to because the glaze is bottled to the ceramic and the ceramic doesn't need to be tabled. But the many opinions, that's the way we hold also, that you should table glazed ceramic. Okay, dough, okay. Egg slicer, they have those things that cut eggs? Yeah. That needs to be tabled. Electric knife needs to be tabled, but only the metal part that's used for cutting, not the rest of it. When you have an electric knife, you have the blades and then you stick it into the electrical part, right? So the electrical part obviously doesn't need to be tabled, but the blade of the knife, which is metal, that needs to be tabled, it's touching the food. What? No, the blade I'm saying comes out. You can table the whole blade.
What else?
Now, if the hot water thing, can you toggle only the part that touches the water?
So many opinions say, we said, the Moshe Feinstein says you have to table everything but the electrical part. There are poskim that say, B'chal, you don't have to table it, but most people disagree with that and they say you do need to table it. Some people, again, will table it and then just let it dry out for a long period of time, or they give it to the guy, and the guy acquires it and that. But you don't have to table the electrical part. Food processor, that you put the, the Ninja, the Cuisinart, thank you, need all the ladies here. Okay, food scale, that doesn't need to be tabled because it's not touching the food. French fry cutter needs to be tabled. Fruit juicer needs to be tabled. The grater needs to be tabled. The grill, any parts that touch the food needs to be tabled. Grinder also needs to be tabled.
What if, like in the oven, sometimes you don't usually put anything on the grates in the oven, but...
That's why people usually don't table the grates inside the oven because you don't put food directly on it. But if you have a broiler pan, many of the ovens have a broiler pan that the food goes onto, that needs to be tabled.
So sometimes you want to put a challah and you wouldn't be able to...
No, but you go by the majority of usage. Most users, it's not made like that. A broiler pan, you always put whatever you're broiling, you put on it directly. Hot plate, again, depends if it's electric, if the food's touching it or not. Ice cream scooper needs to be tabled. A juicer needs to be tabled. A kiddush cup, again, if it's metal or glass, it needs to be tabled. If it's ceramic, they make these nice ceramic kiddush cups that doesn't have to be tabled.
Most of them are made by Jews.
Huh?
Most of them are made by Jews, for Jews.
The companies are owned by Jews. Yeah, so again.
Silver Becher was made by a Jewish company.
Yeah, so if it's silver becher from Israel, but if it's made in China.
If it's made in China, it's definitely made by Jews in China. No one's making a very pure Guffin cup in China.
Why not?
For not Jews.
Not for not Jews, but a guy could own the company and make selling to Jews.
And when you say metal, it includes all types of metal.
All types of metal.
Silver, gold.
Silver, gold, platinum, diamond.
Diamond is a stone.
What?
Diamond's not metal.
Diamond is a stone.
Stone doesn't have to be tabled. Okay, meat hammer, I don't know why they say, because it's with the raw meat. Okay, meat slicer needs to be tabled. Meat tenderizer does not need to be tabled. Meat thermometer, even though it goes into the food, but it's not there for preparation of food, that doesn't have to be tabled.
The meat tenderizer doesn't need to be tabled.
That's the right. Melon baller, that round thing you make melon balls out of the melons, that needs to be tabled. Microwave plate, again, if you put food on it, depends how you use a microwave. So if let's say the plate is usually glass, right? So if you put food directly onto that plate, so then you would have to table it. If you never put food on that plate, then you wouldn't have to table it.
The drawer in the freezer that receives the frozen ice, like the paste, I think the ice maker is.
The ice maker, l'chayru would need. Why not?
Pull up the ice maker.
Huh?
Has to be too?
Not the machine,
No, the receptacle.
the bin. Unless it's usually plastic. And again, with the heter that you don't have to table plastic. Where are we up to? Okay, microwave plate we said. Ceramic mug, napkin rings not. Onion chopper yes. Oven rack not, because again, you don't put food directly on the oven rack. Pasta, a peeler, a regular peeler, that's basically metal that you peel fruits and vegetables, so it's touching mamish the fruit and vegetables. A pet food dish. So you have a dog and you have a special plate that doesn't have to be tabled.
Even if they don't do Jewish?
Pizza, even if the dog's Jewish, yeah.
If you also need to do
What? When they put you in the doghouse,
How about me?
yeah, if they put you in the doghouse, then you eat from the dog plate, right?
How about me, Rabbi?
Okay, good.
Go to China.
There's a story that a guy once came to a rabbi and he said, Rabbi, I want you to bar mitzvah my horse. And I'll give you a lot of money for the synagogue if you bar mitzvah my horse. So the rabbi said, come on, how can I bar mitzvah the horse? Anyway, so let's go back and forth, and the guy was really offering a lot of money. So, okay, the guy said, okay, I'll go to the conservative reform, they'll do it for me. So the rabbi says to him, oh, you didn't tell me the horse is Jewish. For sure I'll do it. By the way, it's a true story. It's like the true story, years ago when I was a bacher, in the Allgemeiner Journal, it was the Yiddish paper, still goes on today. There was a picture, no joke, in Long Island, there was a guy that had a horse, no joke, and the horse was wearing a talis and a yarmulke, and he wrote, the caption was, he made a bar mitzvah for his horse.